Auburn and Georgia, the deep South's oldest rivalry, did not disappoint. The experts had this at a 14-point spread. And going into this weekend, if you listen to the previous episode, I said this game will be much closer than the experts think. I put it down as a 28-17 Georgia win. Mike picked a 30-9 Georgia win, but it was only a 7-point win. I told you this was going to be closer than the experts think, simply just because of the voodoo magic that Jordan Hare can simply provide. Had this been a night game in Jordan Hare, maybe the voodoo magic would have been turned up even more. But nonetheless, a lot to talk about here. This was Carson Beck's first real start. And we talked about how Auburn was just going to let it all hang out, that they were playing with house money, that they were just going to let it all rip. And from the get-go, they let it all hang out. They showed their hand, showed their cards, let it all play out, say, hey, this is what we're playing with. This is what we're going to do. And you're just going to have to stop it. And a large part of their success was the element of the quarterback run. I mean, let's see if I can find this here pretty quickly. Peyton Thorne set the tone early in the first quarter with a 61-yard run. He finished 12 for 92 on the ground. 12 for 92. He was their leading rusher. And you've got Jarquez Hunter and Brian Batty in the backfield, and he was the leading rusher, causing them to go over 200 total as a team. But we're talking about Carson Beck. Here we go. Talking about Carson Beck. I'm already all over the place. So Auburn let it all hang out, and we were concerned going in, what are we going to see out of Carson Beck? Is he going to be able to handle the pressure? Is he going to be able to respond if things don't go well, if adversity hits, whatnot? And I believe he did just that. If you cycle through Twitter, if you search his name, Georgia fans are all over his case. I go to church in the South. I go to church, 45 minutes away from the Athens campus. So all I heard was Carson Beck is not it. Carson Beck is not our guy. And to that, I just say, why? What kind of expectations do you have on him? If we're simply talking statistics, okay, 23 for 33, 313 yards, a score, and a pick. It's good for a 91.4 QBR. So what is making you say that Carson Beck is not the guy? He was accurate with the football. He made good decisions. He was rather composed in his first ever real road test. If you were comparing him to 2022 and 2023 Stetson Bennett, you're living in a Madden world. You're living in an EA Sports gaming world where you just plug the next guy in who's got this overall rating, and you just push the buttons and they do the job. But, if they can't do it to the level of, the guy of the past, then they must not be it. This is not how this works. And so to that, I would say your expectation of him is foolishness. I would say he's absolutely your guy. And you're a different team overall with a different DNA and a different identity. Your defense is not as star-studded. They've got some not holes, but they've got some vulnerability to them, where in the past 2 years, did they? In the past, you had to beat this team on the edge with great receiver play, 50-50 balls, and if you couldn't do that, you couldn't beat this team. I don't think that you have to do that to attack them defensively anymore. Auburn showed that if you could put the ball on the ground with the quarterback, you can cause a lot of problems. But there were two things in my mind that really kept Auburn in this. And this is something that I really thought that they could do going in. The first thing is turnovers. All right. So I know that they had at least 2 turnovers. I want to try to find this very quickly if I can. All right. It's not going to help my argument anyway. 2 turnovers that we know are for sure. Jalen Simpson had a interception picking off Carson Beck early in what I believe was the first quarter with about 6 minutes left, put the or gave possession to the Tigers at about midfield, and they were able to turn that into a touchdown, putting them up 10-0. Later, Oscar Delp, Luke Delp, whatever his name is, last name Delp, he puts the ball on the ground. So turnovers were a big deal, something that Auburn had to have in order to either pull off this win or keep it close, and that's what they did. They took advantage of their turnovers. I believe that they turned that Delp fumble into 6 points as well. And the second thing was just quarterback run. And I've already talked about this. They didn't need Robbie Ashford to put the ball on the ground. They were able to do it very successfully with Peyton Thorne. And I love how they did it from the get-go. 61-yard rush early in the first quarter, basically saying to Georgia, we're going to show you this early because we want you to be aware of this the whole night. The whole day, we want you to have to defend this and think about this the whole night. So now when Peyton Thorne is on the field, we want you thinking about this. And as we're calling plays, we know that you now have this in mind because there's a lot more that we can do out of this. This opens up our RPO game. This opens up our zone read game. This opens up our read option game. It did a lot for them. But I told you going into this game that Carson Beck was going to be your X factor, that this game was going to come down to him. Can he handle the pressure? Can he respond to adversity? All of those things. Again, it's his first real test, and Auburn was playing with house money, and they're just going to let it all rip, especially on the defensive side. Something that we didn't talk about enough was Brock Bowers. If you're considering who to put in your Heisman finalist, just put Brock Bowers at this moment. Listen, this is coming from a Tennessee guy. Let's just go ahead and hold the ceremony. Let's send Brock Bowers by himself because this dude is outstanding. And shame on the offensive side of the football and whoever is involved on the offense for Georgia for not dialing up Brock Bowers more. He didn't really come alive until the second half, and that I'm going to blame that on the coaching staff for not getting him more involved. He absolutely just took over this game. 8 catches, 157 yards, and a score. And his score in the end is really what put Georgia over the hump and where you could almost feel like the wind come out of Auburn's sails. When he started to get going, it was probably like sand in their fingers, sand in their hands, trying to hold it all together. And then he puts together that touchdown, I believe, from about 40 yards out and finds the end zone. Made 2 ridiculous, stupid one-handed catches. I mean, this guy is unreal. Let's just go ahead and put him in New York. Auburn still had a chance there towards the end, driving the field. I believe they got to about midfield, and on a 4th and 9 situation, Peyton Thorne throws a pick. There just wasn't much there, so he had to force feed it, and it ends up getting picked off. But I just want to say that I told you so. That this game was going to be closer than the experts suggested or thought. Auburn covered. This is a game that they very well could have won. They covered, came up just short. Auburn is going to be a problem, I believe, from here on out for any opposing teams, because now you have a real legit run threat in Peyton Thorne, who you've got to be prepared for. Everybody was just considering Robbie Ashford. All right, Robbie Ashford, red zone Robbie, he's on the field. We know what's coming. Well, with Peyton Thorne, he's not a statue, man. He can do it. He can put the ball on the ground. He can put the ball on the floor. He can get to the paint. He can do it. We saw it. He ran well. So quarterback run, turnovers were really monumental for Auburn keeping this game close and so close to pulling out the win. But Georgia fans, I'd just say this to you, man. Carson Beck is your guy. He really, really is. He's solid, threw for over 300 yards. But nonetheless, we both picked Georgia to win this game. Auburn in cover. The Deep South's oldest rivalry did not disappoint. Auburn 20, Georgia 27.
Pandemonium reigns.